Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Promhurst, Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day recap for Tuesday, May 9th. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. So let's get through the themes of the day. Of course, once again, very choppy markets. Not much of a really direction in the indices, and some setups are kind of stalling. That's just something that I'm noticing. I'm just going to mute my TV here for a second as I do the video. But I mean, there's still some, there's some bad things going on in the market and there's some good things. So I will go through a couple of those very quickly with you. I have here also a theme of the day that the biotech names are strong, have been strong. So I will go through a couple of names that reported earnings after the close too. But yeah, we're in this. I'm just gonna call it this for now because I think it's funny. But it looks like it's like the triangle of death right now. We are right smack in the middle of this widening pattern, expanding move, or broadening formation, I guess is what technicians like to call it. But we're also right in the middle of this value area. So I'm one of the things that I try to do is just basically be patient and wait for the price action to develop, because there's not really much that you're going to get from this. I mean, it has been very, very choppy and the market just doesn't want to go anywhere right now. Again, looking at the VIX, I think the VIX, even though we've got CPI report, PPI report, CPI report tomorrow, they are looking, while I have this up, I might as well bring it up very quickly. But if you look at the CPI report for tomorrow, they are expecting a bigger number. 0.4 is what they're expecting, both food with month over month and ex-food and energy. That's mainly what I look at because the year over year is just the compilation of the last 12 months. So, really it's what we're looking at is the latest data point. And then of course we get PPI later in the week. And then of course we've got this debt ceiling situation, which is also overhanging the market. And I think that that's contributing to why we're just trading in this tight range. But notice that we could not break above the value area yesterday, and we're sitting just like right by the point of control where the majority of the volume happened last week. All right, so that's where we are. And again, when we're trading in like a range like this, with the VIX right now is 1770, yes, that kind of makes sense why the VIX is not moving higher, even though we have these events, because the price action is just not doing much, right? So even though the VIX looks at 30-day options, but that's what we have going on here. The Qs, even though they underperformed for the day, they were down 60 basis points, but no real technical break. They're still sitting above the value area for May, and it's also above the 5-period moving average. If you have any questions about some of the technicals, things like value areas, virgin point of controls, things that I mentioned in this video, make sure that you go to my pinned tweet on Twitter, and you will find out exactly all the definitions for some of the terms I'm using. All right, so let's look at a few sectors. I did pause the recording there for a second to get the news that they made no progress in terms of this White House meeting in terms of the debt ceiling, which was the expectations going into the meeting. They've got a couple weeks to figure it out. That's going to be very interesting for the markets. Clearly, there's an effect on that. There is a movement up in the CDS. That's a chart that I tweeted out over the weekend, so I won't rehash that, but because it is what it is. This is an event that hopefully the market and the country can get through and move on to the next crisis that we have to deal with. So let's talk about a couple of sectors. First of all, XBI, right? On a day where the SPY was down close to 0.5%, very encouraging to see biotech, continuing to excel here. It did take out this virgin point of control. Sometimes this is an area of pause, so we'll have to monitor for that. I mean, there's been some really nice relative strength in this area. Another area that I don't know what's up with this print here, so we'll look at maybe the SOX index. But you know, a little bit discouraging for the day was what the semis did today. There's, you know, this is sometimes how it works, and you know, being cognizant of when there's an earnings report or a couple earnings reports. Both Skyworks and Global Foundries both had pretty bad earnings reactions, and I think most of it on due to their guidance. But this brought down the group. This was something that was starting to kind of perk up a little bit, but you know, bad earnings, you know, a name, two names can kind of derail what you're seeing, you know, so that can definitely influence the price action. I would still, you know, Nvidia was down about 2% for the day, but really no technical damage being done. My price target is still 300, as long as it stays above the value area for the month. Notice that it's still, even with it down 2%, still stayed above the 5-period moving average, which I thought was pretty encouraging. A couple other names, I think I may have went over these setups in yesterday's video, I'm not sure, but Salesforce had a nice day today, up 1.7%. It did not close on the highs. So, you know, this is why in this market, you take some targets, right? You know, it's very important right now, at least the way I'm trading. I even said on my second small target of Salesforce, you know, I paid 198.60 because I legged into it yesterday. I said, normally I would put targets out much wider, but you just can't do that in this market right now, because you're getting a lot of fades like this. So that's fine. I much rather, you know, take what the market's giving me right now, and you know, and then I have some flexibility if I want to re-add to it, right? That's been really helping in some swing trades. So that's one name that I'm focused on for tomorrow is maybe Meta. That was a name that I tried to day trade. I kind of gave up on it because it did not close inside its value area for the week, but this would be like a scalping opportunity. I would just be looking for a move basically back up to the 240, 242 level. So 234 will be something to watch. Google also, I think everybody kind of got a little bit pulled up on Google. Another fade, right? And you know, I traded this one at the beginning of the day too. I took one quick target. I mean, you know, you're looking at $1 target up. But again, if you don't take that target, at least get that first target in, you know, often you're going to lose, you know, if not, you know, where you put the trade on, but you know, you got to be really quick. Otherwise you start giving back P&L. So that's just a couple things to kind of go over in terms of trades. Other areas of this market, the home builders, right? This is a group that I've been long because of the relative strength. Now, they didn't close on the highs either, but they're just continuing to kind of glide higher above that 5-period moving average. And if you go through this group, you know, Toll Brothers had another nice day today, that's a new closing high for Toll Brothers. DHI is another name in this group, but we've seen more, you know, we've seen various names. There's a name that I got long yesterday, which is TM. It's a tough symbol, but it's TMHC, which I'll bring up really quick. I'll go through some of these charts kind of quickly. But this DHI looks fine, looks good. It's done a lot of consolidation after its earnings report. Here's TMHC, which made it out to new highs. I also thought DraftKings looks pretty good here too. You know, notice it's just kind of consolidating, waiting for some of these moving averages to kind of catch up. So that's an interesting name as well. Might as well bring up Apple. You know, nothing wrong with Apple. This is kind of how Apple moves. You know, whenever it moves decently, it always kind of consolidates. It's been very methodical. So I would be patient with this one if you are watching that. Let's talk about a couple, you know, a shoe name. You know, the consumer discretionary names have been pretty good. I like the Skechers chart. Notice how it's just sitting back here, you know, around where the earnings gap was. One of my favorite setups going in tomorrow is Wingstop. Wingstop has now basically just about given back the whole earnings gap, right? The volume is not really that big here on some of the selling that we've seen. So that's something, you know, it may need to come into the 20-day moving average. We'll see. But I think that's going to set up pretty nicely for this digestion that the name is seeing right now. Also, another one that's seeing, like, so I really think, like, as I'm going through these names, you know, if the market can kind of hold in here where if we don't get huge volatility, there's a lot of interesting things going on. I would like maybe this name to come in a little bit more, but it's a light volume digestion so far for TGTX as well. So I think that's interesting. Gold, I even think is kind of is not bad here either. I hold a synthetic long position. I'm long some UGL. I'm also long some some FNV. A couple names that reported after hours, really nice numbers from Celsius. They're trading up to 114. The price action won't update here on the aftermarket. But it looks like this VPOC is going to be taken out, so it might do some consolidation around there. Toast also, which is a name that I talked about in yesterday's video. I just thought it didn't have that high speculative money in there. It's up to 2056. Again, it's going to have to deal with quite a bit of overhead supply, but I think it can maybe run up to 2242. Right, that's that red line Virgin point of control. Again, go to my Twitter homepage to see more of that. Another name too I think is interesting that reported after the close is AXON. I don't think it did much, but this name's sneaky, right? It's down here a little bit in the after hours market, but buyers keep coming back into this thing, so it's a name to kind of keep your eye on. So again, these are just a few names that I'm looking at for tomorrow. We've got a bunch of other names on the watch list. So, again, it's kind of really interesting what's going on in this market, even though it's trading in a range. There's some bad things, there's some good things, but there's some pretty good stories out there in terms of, some of these growth names that are doing very well on earnings and nice follow through. All right, guys, that's it for today's recap. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.